so wonderful to be here. Again, I'm Zaib Husain, and I'm the founder and CEO of Makerarm, a robotics company based right here in Austin, Texas. And it's really fantastic to be in this gathering of luminaries talking about artificial intelligence, about smart machines, and about policy. And I would like to continue in that vein and talk about the impact of smart machines, of automation on humanity. There's been such great energy all day, and I've learned so much from all the speakers. Fabulous event. So really thinking about the role of humanity so far, we do consider ourselves the ultimate creation born of the earth, and for good reason, given our mental acuity, given the dexterity that people enjoy, and really our ability to make smart decisions and impact our environment. Our skills and abilities have so far been unmatched and unchallenged, but that will likely change in the coming century. We're already seeing narrow examples where smart machines, where robots can beat the speeds and beat other capabilities of humanity. And we heard about some examples earlier, the game of chess, the game of Go. But looking at industry in general, looking at manufacturing, we can see that robotics can perform tasks and at speeds that are unmatched by people. Now, let's look at the global impact of the coming era of automation. Roughly half of the $16 trillion paid out in wages around the world have the potential to be automated, and that is given the technology of today. We are not looking at advancements that will happen in the future. And while there is obviously a concern around job loss and what will happen to the people whose work gets automated away, there are inherent inefficiencies in how a lot of this technology will be implemented, and that gives us a window of opportunity to start the policy discussion, to really start shaping how we approach this opportunity and guide people and guide the world through it. Now, going back to the early days of economics, looking at Adam Smith's example of labor in a pin factory and the work that specialization can help us do, really the increase in productivity and efficiency that narrow focus on a repetitive task can enable. We have seen the efficiencies and the increase in output from that, but is that really the best use of people's time? I feel that it's okay for automation to displace some jobs and to really take over the predictable, cumbersome activities that people engage in today to free up humans, to free up that time for greater purpose, for that higher thinking that we're capable of, to acquire education, to disseminate it, to really be in caregiving situations, and also for exploration, for creativity, which are the higher pursuits that human beings enjoy. And you can see here that the predictable, repetitive tasks are the ones that have the highest potential of being automated away. Now, let's look at some of the factors driving this automation and driving this change. We do know that the technology is there and it's driving new growth every day. We're also seeing costs come down. Moore's law is still very much in effect. We're seeing plummeting costs in electronics that allow us to purchase intelligence that can be embedded in the new products that are coming out in the market. And we're also seeing a drive towards automation given labor shortages around the world, be it the aging population in Japan, or be it narrow areas such as the energy industry in the US that needs smart machines and software to supplement the learning and the knowledge of experts to manage infrastructure. Now, there are still reservations around having robots amongst us, and that's okay. As time moves forward, that will likely change into greater acceptance. But we need to shape policy now to abate the sting from job loss and to really talk about the future and shape it so it is implemented in a positive manner for everyone. Now, we've had a chance to talk about warfare, about so many different applications of AI, and some with known negatives that are potentially out there. But let's talk about agriculture, a very basic need of humanity, food production, and we can see that there have been tremendous gains in this space. In the year 1900, this fact was mentioned in the discussion earlier as well. In the year 1900, almost 40% of the workforce worked on farms to produce enough food to feed the country. And going back a few decades from there, in the 1850s, that number was much higher, close to around 80%. Today, that stands at less than 2%, and that's in large part thanks to automation and the machinery that is used on farms. This is another representation of the same information, but it's even more compelling that given the tremendously low numbers of farm workers, we have still been able to cultivate larger tracts of land and also increase agricultural output. Now let's think about the next stage, the next iteration of agricultural automation. So far, we've looked at and thought about machines that need a human to interact with them, a tractor that needs a farmer there to drive it and to work it. But we're getting to an era where autonomous machines can take some of these tasks over. A drone as a farm worker, for instance. A drone would be able to manage a tract of land, to look for any infestations or signs of plant distress, and given the ability of machines like this to do multispectral imaging, we may discover lowering levels of chlorophyll and be able to identify a threat to a crop much before that first yellowing withered leaf is spotted by a farmer. And appropriate action can also certainly be taken by drones in the form of disseminating insecticide or fertilizer or additional materials as needed. Now, another very innately human activity up until now has been fruit picking. You know, you have to really look at a fruit, decide if it's ripe, and then pluck it very carefully so you don't bruise it. Even that is an activity that is now being done by robots that can go out there and, given acute vision systems, gauge what they need to pick and then pick it appropriately. The world's first fully automated robotic farm just opened up in Japan. It produces lettuce, and it's giving other local farms serious competition because their lettuce is produced at a lower cost, and it certainly is as high or better quality than competitive lettuce out there. Now, it is definitely a brave new world, and with the help of automation with robots, we're able to take something like insect farming and make it available to the populace around the world as an alternate source of eco-friendly meat for consumption by humans. And while this idea might be more palatable to some than others, it has been there for a long time, and over 2 billion people around the world do eat insects, and this will be a growing trend. Much investment is also flowing into this, and automation is making it all possible. 3D printed food and supplements, looking at the wider food industry in general, it is now possible to take the dietary concerns of an individual and the required supplements for that individual and print a very unique and personalized meal for them. And that is absolutely fantastic in my book. And while we do have a lot of reservations about automation, about robotics, and their role in the future of the world, and we've certainly been discussing some of the near-term negative effects in terms of job loss, but it's certainly very heartening to think about a world where automation, where smart machines help us reach sufficiency in food production so no one around the world has to go to sleep hungry. That is a very encouraging thought indeed. Now, moving to an area that's much closer to the work that we're doing, let's talk a little bit about factories of the future. Now, factories up until now, if you envision them, they're these big drab buildings with very complex machinery, and you really need to be an engineer or have a technical background, and really a lot of money to access these machines and be able to work with them. And that has been a big barrier to a lot of people working with this technology. Given advances in techniques like 3D printing, lasers, CNCs, and so on, and given the lowering costs, we're now seeing an increasing trend around the factories of the future that are fabrication facilities and maker spaces, and really labs set up around the world where a lot of this technology has not only become accessible and affordable, but also via software, easy to use, where you don't necessarily need to have a technical degree to access it. As an example, let's look at injection molding, which has long been the hallmark for producing low-cost plastic parts, and compare it with 3D printing. And you can see that at low runs of units, a few hundred parts, it's actually less expensive to 3D print those parts versus investing in the initial amount needed to set up the mold and for injection molding. And we will likely see this trend continue with prices for 3D printing falling as techniques become refined and new materials become available on the market. Now, great gains have also been made in material science, and we have been able to gather all the knowledge that humanity has thus far collected and add it to a single database. And bright people at MIT and beyond have developed an AI program that can be queried for an output material that you desire, given the characteristics that you put in for it. And that's very, very exciting to see because it takes away years of repetitive experiments and really allows you to narrow in on what you're looking for and have a recipe to get there. Now, we've spoken about some jobs that may eventually be replaced by automation, but likely we will continue to see a lot of people working in collaboration with robots, or collaborative robots, also called cobots. And this will happen in sectors such as healthcare and medicine and other areas. And it is also close to the work that we're doing at Makerarm. Makerarm, we do have a demo unit available. We were doing some laser demos with it earlier, is again a factory on a desktop. And we're able to do 15 different manufacturing functions with one affordable robot. And these include electronics assembly, 3D printing, CNC milling, laser cutting and etching, and so on. And the great thing is that Makerarm allows people to interact with itself and use these applications very intuitively and easily without having a technical background. And it gives you the flexibility to set up a low-cost production line or set up your lab or makerspace and really prototype or batch produce or build any product that you wish to. As you can see, there are examples of everything from electronics to 3D printing to two Makerarms working in collaboration to build a laptop that we did, built laptop from scratch, and so on. And we're going to see that the software and the ease of use that is now possible with current technology will enable many more people to access this technology. Now, we're very, very excited to be here in Austin. That is really the epicenter of a lot of this important work happening in AI and in robotics. And we look forward to the future where a lot of, we'll see additional technology coming up and being implemented. And really now is the time to have a discussion around the value of humanity and kind of decouple how we value people from the tasks that they perform. And while we look to help and support those who may lose their jobs in this transition period, we also really have to think about how we're educating our children and how we're talking to them about being effective citizens of tomorrow and how to interact with this coming technology. Thank you so much.